Last week, I announced that I'm giving myself 12 months to become fluent in the Arabic language. And so this is how my week has went, practicing the routine that I set out. As a quick reminder, this routine is based on 4 pillars: listening, speaking, vocabulary, and the most important and uncomfortable one for me, making a monthly recording where I speak completely in Arabic with no edits and no cuts. This is day one, and I had a class with my teacher who actually studied in Yemen for a long time, mashallah. But let's just say it didn't go too well. For context, we're covering the Al-Arabiya Bayna Yadayk books, and these books are pretty good in terms of learning vocabulary. But the main issue is that we have classes once a week, and my speaking was lacking, as you could see in the clips to come. يختار الرجل الزوجة في بلدي بسبب So you could see I was taking so long to form sentences. I knew the words, it was just the conjugation. For context, I've been studying Arabic for around a year now, and my listening is okay. It's just the speaking part I struggle with so much. For those quite curious how our lessons go, basically one of us has to act kind of as a person during the speaking session. So as you could see here, we have the mother and we have the father in the topic conversation kind of. So one of us would either be one or the other, and then basically we would speak to each other and then try and practice or emulate speaking in a real conversation, which was good. But there were many things missing from that, which was all of my homework was based upon writing and learning grammar rules, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It was just, if you want to get better at speaking, you actually have to speak, which is why I started doing more research. What actually makes someone become a good speaker? So continuing on, I watched some Muhammad Andalus and I realized so many new things, like how I need to follow a set curriculum, like by learning specific words that aren't in a random order, like learning words that are related to one topic, not mixing them. So by reviewing my old notes, I finally knew what I had to do for day 2 and 3. So using the app that I'm making, I generated some conversational words for review and practice. During that time, I spent a lot of time revising conversational words, and this really helped because there were some sentences that I picked up along the way. Like for example, the sentence بصراحة لم أفهم, which kind of means, frankly, I didn't understand that. And obviously you guys can correct me in the description. I also learned a different word, which was أقنع, which means to convince. So another kind of sentence that I could say would be كيف أقنعت صديقك بذلك? How did you convince your friend with that or on that topic? You guys can correct me because I can assume there are people who are experts in the comments. Following on, this was a really hard routine to maintain because there was Tarawih, it's the last 10 nights or 10 days of Ramadan as well. And it was really, challenging to remain consistent. And I felt like my brain was frying because the words weren't entering my head. So that was kind of the situation for day 2 and 3. However, day 4, it kind of shifted a little bit. What I mean by that is I was preparing for a live call in which I was going to try and use some of the words I learned in actual application. Yes, I was doing more revision, more, reviews and trying to make my app a little bit better for the Arabic kind of trajectory I was aiming for. But it was more of just preparing for that live call that I had to attend. So on day 6, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I kind of got too carried away. Got carried away with the little imperfections or little things I wanted to improve in my app rather than actually learning Arabic. And so I spent a lot of time just working on it, not necessarily revising or doing more practice. And I felt like that's a big issue in terms of not app creation, but specifically looking at the small details that aren't the bigger picture. I think I spent too much time doing revision, looking at flashcards, looking at different things rather than actually speaking more often, maybe getting in more speaking sessions. And I realized that because on day 7, I called one of my friends and we had a conversation in Arabic. كيف حالك يا أخي؟
أنا بخير.
الحمد لله. كيف أسرتك؟
كلهم طيبون سالمون وعافيون.
ما شاء الله. هل أنت في منزلك؟
نعم أنا في المنزل.
ما شاء الله. كيف
نعم
تجارتك؟
جارتي بخير الحمد لله. أنت تعرف أنت ترى
نعم نعم نعم. قرأت بعضه. ما معنى إعلان؟
advertisement.
في Gumroad.
نعم
What I realized, and this is the final point, I needed to practice speaking more because you can only get better at something if you do that thing more. You can't get better at speaking by learning grammar. You can't get better at speaking by learning vocabulary words, by doing flashcards. Yes, these things do help you in becoming, more proficient in speaking. But to actually improve in speaking, you need to speak more, because there are times where you want to say words, but you have to kind of piece in your brain how to conjugate the verb and how to use the specific grammar rule with the correct tashkil and all of these things. But they come naturally when you speak more, when you speak to more people, seek advice, and then try and implement that. That's the most important thing. If it weren't for the other thing that we didn't mention, in which you can probably guess what it was, right? Is dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who knows everything. There is people who have knowledge, and then there is obviously people who have more knowledge than that specific person. However, it keeps going back up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the source of all knowledge. He is the one that taught Adam alayhi salam all of the names of all of the things. And so why not make the same dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches you the way He taught Adam alayhi salam? And that's something I realized I didn't do in this week as much. I could have made a ton more dua so that I could actually learn way faster and retain more knowledge. So that's something that I'll be doing way more coming in the future. And I suppose that's something that you could do as well. So the main, I guess, final message I wanted to leave here is the fact that we will be trying to do a 30-day challenge from here. So we've done 7 days. Now we'll be aiming for 30 days. And then eventually we'll reach that year status where we can actually say and look back on this progress and be fluent and make an entire video in Arabic, inshallah. So I'll see you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.